What if a solitary mechanic's act of kindness could spark a revolution? Jacob discovers a wounded alien woman, Leora, pursued by an oppressive regime. As he becomes entangled in her fight for freedom, he grapples with loyalty, bravery, and love. Would you risk everything for a truth that could change worlds forever while facing your own moral dilemmas? If you dream of entering universes or planets where humans shine when they meet unknown races, subscribe, turn on notifications, and you will be happy every day with new wonderful sci-fi stories. Well, let's go. In the heart of a secluded forest, where the murmuring of brooks blended with the rustling of leaves, Jacob, a 55-year-old mechanic with salt and pepper hair and deep-set, weary eyes, spent his days in silence. His hands, calloused from years of toil, navigated the assortment of metal and machinery strewn about his workshop, a sanctuary cloaked in solitude. Piles of disassembled engines, half-repaired devices, and nebulous artifacts from a bygone era filled the space around him, serving as remnants of both a forgotten past and an unfulfilled dream. Each tool hung like a talisman, a memory of better times when he and his late wife had shared this humble abode, creating and innovating together. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the trees, and an unsettling stillness enveloped the area, thickening the air with anticipation. As Jacob painstakingly tightened the last bolt on an old engine, his heart thudded in his chest, a rhythmic reminder of his mundane yet secure existence. Yet, the tranquility shattered unexpectedly when a brilliant light sliced through the darkening canopy, illuminating the sky like a shooting star. Jacob's heart raced. This was no ordinary meteor shower. Something much more profound was unfolding, a celestial herald of change. Compelled by an unfamiliar mixture of fear and curiosity that tugged at his heart, Jacob moved toward a clearing he seldom visited, driven by an instinct he couldn't ignore. As he pushed through the thick undergrowth, the ground trembled beneath his feet, and a gasp escaped his lips. There, sprawling across the forest floor, lay a massive alien spacecraft adorned with ethereal, swirling metallic patterns that refracted light in a dazzling display of colors. Smoke billowed from its crumpled hull, choking the air with an acrid scent, sending a cascade of dread down Jacob's spine. Against all instincts to flee, he felt an undeniable urge to venture closer, an almost magnetic pull towards the mystery lying before him. Yet, amidst the chaos, a soft cry reached his ears, a plea born of desperation, rising above the hissing of escaping steam. "Help me," the voice trembled, laced with fear and hope. Jacob's heart ached painfully. He recalled the sacrifices he and his wife had made for others, the compassion that had once fueled their dreams. Kneeling beside the crumpled figure sprawled among the debris, he beheld her. There stood Leora, an alien woman with gossamer green skin that shimmered like dew under the morning sun, adorned with silver patterns that seemed to ripple with her heartbeat. Her eyes, expansive pools of alien azure, held both despair and a flicker of hope as they met his own. "I'll help you. Just hold on," he replied, steeling his resolve. As he examined her injuries, he noted the delicate contours of her form, the elegant curves that spoke of a being far removed from the harshness of his world. With every gentle touch, he felt a connection, an unexpected bond forming amidst the chaos. Yet, as he worked to stem the flow of blood trickling from a wound along her arm, uncertainty gnawed at him. How had a simple life brought him to this? A cosmic collision fated to challenge everything he knew. Leora's gaze, filled with a palpable intensity, pierced through his turmoil. Days flowed into nights within the confines of the forest, enveloping Jacob and Leora in a cocoon of adrenaline and newfound companionship. As sunlight filtered through the canopy above, casting dappled patterns on the ground, Jacob couldn't shake the nagging feeling that time was running out. His once peaceful sanctuary had transformed into a hideout, a battleground where intergalactic forces could converge at any moment. The soothing chirps of birds felt like the calm before an unseen storm, and he often caught himself glancing at the sky, trepidation gnawing at his gut. Leora's recovery was an unbelievable sight. With each passing day, she grew stronger, her translucent green skin glowing more vibrantly than the day he found her. She appeared almost ethereal, with threads of silver-like light coursing over her body. As she moved, her silver patterns shimmered, twisting and dancing in a manner that mirrored the constellations. The beauty she encapsulated both fascinated and bewildered Jacob. He wondered about the stories behind those swirling designs and felt an intense yearning to uncover the mysteries of her world. It was during one of these moments of quietude that Leora shared more about herself, the events that had led to her crash landing on Earth, and the nefarious Imperium. "We were not just passing through," she said, her voice trembling slightly, heavy with emotion. "We were fleeing." Jacob listened closely, captivated yet apprehensive. The Imperium, a powerful and tyrannical regime that spanned galaxies, saw Leora as a threat. She harbored knowledge that could unravel their carefully woven fabric of control and oppression. As she spoke, Jacob learned about her people, the Illyrians, who once flourished in harmony with nature, deep within their homeworld, Zythara. "We're guardians of balance," she continued, her eyes welling with unspilled tears. "The Imperium feared that my voice could ignite the resistance. So they came for me." Jacob's heart sank at the realization that their peaceful life was about to be disrupted by cosmic scales of power. "Is there a way to combat them? To protect your people?" he asked, hoping for a glimmer of hope. Leora nodded but spoke with pained hesitation. "We possess extraordinary abilities, but it requires unity among our kind. And my kind has scattered like stardust beneath the weight of fear." The weight of her predicament pressed upon him. He felt as if he had been thrust into a sci-fi saga that unraveled before his mind's eye. A tale of love against the backdrop of a galactic war. "We have to gather the Illyrians," Jacob said, his voice resolute. "If we can find a way to connect with them, we might stand a chance." But even as those words escaped, the haunting reality of their situation loomed large over them. They were mere pawns on a cosmic chessboard. Could a simple mechanic unite beings of the stars against a powerful regime? Each day, Jacob wrestled with uncertainty, his once mundane existence now tangled in the threads of cosmic destiny. As they prepared for the unknown, Jacob immersed himself in repairing remnants of Leora's craft hidden beneath a tangle of thick roots and foliage. He uncovered fragments that revealed advanced technology, interconnected in a way he had never experienced. Whirring gears and shimmering circuits lay dormant. It seemed as if they were waiting for a spark, a heartbeat to breathe life back into the machinery. Beneath Leora's watchful eye, Jacob threw himself into the work, fueled by adrenaline and an unshakable bond that had formed between them through shared dreams of resistance and freedom. One evening, under a blanket of stars, with the remnants of the ship flickering like stars ignited with energy, Jacob and Leora conducted a ritual, a silent invocation of hope. "If only the stars could guide our way," Jacob murmured, looking into the cosmic abyss above. Without warning, lights shot across the heavens, crackling like the language of the cosmos. "The ancients," Leora whispered, her eyes wide with awe, "they are watching over us." Just then, an abrupt silence charged the air, like a harbinger of dread. The soft thrum of an engine slightly off in the distance sent the birds into a frenzy, all instinctual alarm. Jacob's pulse quickened. He raised his head, scanning for the unseen threat that loomed, darkening their haven. "We have to implement our plan, Leora," he urged, urgency overtaking the moment. "The Imperium will not rest." But as her gaze turned steely and resolute, He saw the flicker of fear behind her bravado, a fragile reminder of the delicate balance they were now operating within. Days transformed into nights of anxious waiting, compounded by the unsettling knowledge that this cosmic battle was only a heartbeat away. They practiced, discovering ways to amplify Leora's abilities while Jacob channeled his ingenuity into crafting makeshift weapons from scraps of metal and remnants of old technology. Together, they envisioned a burgeoning alliance, gathering the shards of hope that remained scattered across the galaxy. With each plan laid out, Jacob found himself wrestling with greater ethical dilemmas than he ever anticipated. Was it right to awaken the Illyrians, to pull them from their hiding places and force them to face their own fears? The prospect of breaking their peaceful existence gnawed at him like a slow burn. Would they blame Leora for bringing them back into the fold of resistance? He weighed the costs of unity against the heaviness of solitude. "The ties that bind us are stronger than fear itself," Leora said one night, her hand resting gently atop Jacob's. The warmth of her touch sparked a light within him, illuminating the shadows of doubt that lingered in his thoughts. "By bringing them into the fold, we can restore balance. But I can't do it alone, I need you." Jacob's heart swelled, but the burden felt heavier. He realized that Leora's hope clung to him, and he bore the weight of both their futures. But how could he proceed through the tangled thicket of the cosmic web that had ensnared them? How could he convince others to meet a fate they feared? "Perhaps we can send a signal?" Jacob suggested, brainstorming strategies to reach out across the cosmos. "I can modify some of these devices. It's risky, but before he could finish, a sudden glare streaked across the night sky, a metallic silhouette outlined against the stars. Red lights, searchlights. The feeling of dread curled tightly in his stomach as the truth hit him like a tidal wave. "They've found us," he shouted, a rush of adrenaline propelling him into action. With urgency, they packed as much of Leora's technology and Jacob's makeshift weapons as they could carry, their retreat hurried by the growing roar of engines above. The shadows of the ancient forest loomed heavily over Jacob and Leora as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting an eerie glow that blurred the lines between reality and their growing fear. Jacob's heart thundered loudly against his ribcage, a primal rhythm that matched the hurried pace of their flight. The stillness of the workshop, once a sanctuary filled with mechanical wonders, felt like another lifetime. He had never imagined that his solace would be shattered by an interstellar conflict threatening to engulf them both. "Quick, this way," Jacob urged, pulling Leora through a thicket of tangled vines and towering ferns. Her delicate fingers, ethereal and glowing with a hint of pulsating energy, interlaced with his as they wove through the underbrush. The metallic fragrance of burning engines lingered in the air, a grim reminder of the relentless search parties sweeping through the forest like wolves on the prowl. "Jacob, they're closing in." Leora's voice cut through the chaos, laced with an urgency that sent chills down Jacob's spine. His mind raced, weighing their options. Each path forward seemed to converge upon danger, a cacophony of piercing lights and ominous thuds echoing above their heads. His instincts yelled at him to retreat, to find safety among the familiar, but there was no turning back now. The warmth of her hand provided a strange comfort amidst the storm of uncertainty. With every hurried step, the connection between them deepened, forged not just through shared peril but an unmistakable trust. Uncharacteristically, Jacob found clarity amidst the fear. He would fight for her, for the inexplicable bond they were forming even as they fled from the encroaching darkness. "We'll find cover at the ravine. Follow me," he shouted, fending off the panic that threatened to pull him under. As they sprinted, the sound of their breaths mingled with the distant roar of engines and explosions that sent shockwaves through the ground. The antiquated scenery of the forest morphed into a chaotic battleground, the air thick with the acrid smell of burning foliage. Jacob glanced back just long enough to catch sight of their pursuers, a squadron of sleek, angular ships belonging to the Imperium, their underside illuminated by a deadly sheen of red. What compelled humans to do battle for the likes of Leora, an alien from a world far removed from his own? Was it mere empathy, or was it something deeper, an untamed spirit urging him to challenge the unknown? As these questions raced through his mind, he caught sight of Leora. The way she moved, fluid and graceful. The intensity burning within her impossibly bright azure eyes. He saw more than just a survivor. He saw a vibrant defiance that ignited a flicker of courage in his own heart. Leora, His words stumbled out, interrupted suddenly by the thunderous beat of engines overhead. Their pursuers were not merely hunting, they were hunting to eradicate. The sound felt like a countdown system, each beat echoed with the possibility of loss, of everything Jacob had come to care about in this fleeting moment. He had to make it count. The ravine was a narrow crevice, hidden from the aerial views, a place where shadows thrived and chaos felt distant. They plunged inside, the darkness enveloping them like a protective shroud. Leora's eyes shimmered faintly as they adjusted, guiding Jacob through the dimness. "Can we hide here?" she whispered, her voice steady as she scanned their surroundings, the tension palpable as they waited for the imminent threat to pass. "But shadows can betray. Do you hear that?" Jacob's instincts screamed at him as a low hum filled the air, an ominous cadence that reverberated ominously throughout the ravine. Adrenaline coursed through him, thrilling yet terrifying. "We're not safe yet." The words barely left his lips when a piercing beam of light sliced through the darkness, illuminating the damp earth they stood upon. "Run!" Jacob shouted, grabbing Leora's hand once more and propelling them back into the wild terrain. Emerging from the ravine, they were greeted by the cacophony of battle. The once serene quiet of the forest had transformed into a war zone, the ground quaking beneath their feet as other creatures scuttled away in fear. The air hummed with the energy of conflict, and Jacob's heart raced in tandem, primal instinct urging him onward, charging toward the nearest thicket of trees where they could regroup. But the Imperium soldiers were relentless. Cloaked in gleaming armor, they cut through the peaceful landscape like a scourge, poised to obliterate anything or anyone that dared to defy their order. As Jacob and Leora took refuge behind a massive trunk, he dared to look toward the chaos. In that brief moment, he witnessed the brutality of oppression, the soldiers executing precision strikes against the wildlife and the resistance, all while maintaining an eerie stoicism. This was no mere hunt, it was a demonstration of power, an attempt to instill fear among those beneath their heel. "Look," Leora whispered, pointing toward a small clearing where a few resistance fighters exchanged gunfire with the Imperium. Their faces were resolute, but dread coated their movements as they quickly descended against overwhelming odds. This was their reality. Camaraderie birthed from desperation, survival waged against a world that sought to silence them. "Leora, we can't just watch this happen. We need to do something," Jacob urged, a determination surging within him. She nodded, her expression firm and resolute, the glow of her alien energy shimmering with purpose. "When the time is right, I will help," she declared, her voice a steadying force amidst the chaos. "But we have to be tactical. Following our impulses may lead to more destruction." Yet Jacob felt the spark of rebellious fire kindling inside him, the necessity to act, to protect not just Leora but the very essence of what she stood for against a regime built on fear. He began to formulate a plan, every tool in his mechanic's kit swirling in his mind like gears interlocking perfectly. There was a scattered cache of weaponry he recalled spotting earlier, non-lethal against the Imperium yet strikingly effective. Their insurgents would need them now more than ever. He looked toward Leora, whose gaze remained fixed on the battle. We could ambush them with those weapons to create a door for the others to escape. Leora turned her wide, luminous gaze toward him, an unspoken admiration lingering in the air. Let's move swiftly, she encouraged, squeezing his hand once more as they darted toward the treeline. The plan forged, they could only hope their instincts guided them to victory and not despair. They maneuvered through the foliage, drawing nearer to the scattered equipment. The ground was soft beneath Jacob's feet, swallowed by the roots of ancient trees that had weathered countless storms. Beneath the thick canopy of alien trees, their emerald leaves shimmering under a dappled moonlight, Jacob and Leora found themselves enveloped by the secretive enclave known simply as the Free. They had arrived barely a few hours before, yet the weight of transience clung to them like the humidity of an impending storm. The atmosphere hummed with an electric tension, the air heavy with a mix of fear and hope. As they entered the cavernous space, Jacob caught glimpses of faces etched with resolve, warriors and scholars, rebels from every corner of the galaxy, worn down yet undeterred by the threat of their oppressors. Jacob stood alongside Leora, his heart racing. This was a collective effort he had never imagined being a part of. Towering structures, crafted from glimmering alloys and bioluminescent plants, surrounded them. The architecture felt alive, bonded to the earth beneath their feet, not unlike Leora's own connection to her home world. Hushed conversations mingled with the faint hum of machinery, weaving a tapestry of determination and resistance. Jacob, Leora's voice broke through his reverie as she tugged gently on his sleeve. Her expression was as fierce as the vibrant iridescent tattoos that swirled along her arms, marking her ancestry as a warrior of her clan. We should see the council. They need to know we are here. The council chamber was an awe-inspiring space, its ceiling arched high above like a night sky filled with stars, illuminated by dynamic projections of past battles and ancient alliances. A circular array of beings flanked a central platform, each representative from a world shaken by the oppression of the Imperium. Their faces varied dramatically, from angular Zephilics whose skin shimmered like glass to the warm ochre hues of the Maindari. They all shared an intensity born from loss, their solemn expressions turning to Jacob and Leora as they entered. "Jacob, this is Tal," Leora said, motioning toward the leader of the Free. Tal was tall and regal, with flowing blue hair that cascaded down his back and sharp features that radiated authority. His eyes, deep-set and silver as a distant galaxy, scrutinized them both with a piercing gaze. "We've heard whispers of an Earthling aiding one of our own," Tal spoke, his voice resonating through the chamber. "What brings you to our sanctuary?" Jacob felt the weight of 100 watches upon him. He took a breath, the tang of adrenaline mingling with the weight of purpose. "I'm here to protect Leora," he stated, choosing his words with care. "The Imperium isn't just hunting her. They're consolidating power, and if we don't act, countless lives could be lost." A murmur ran through the assembly, each representative considering his words. Jacob felt both unease and exhilaration flow through him. This was the moment he had sought, to stand among allies, to share in the burden of the fight. He glanced sideways at Leora, whose confidence ignited the air around them. "Jacob speaks the truth," Leora interjected, her voice strong, embracing its haunting elegance. "I know secrets about the Imperium, their plans to expand their reign, to quash any form of rebellion. We must act swiftly, together." The way she bore herself, with both grace and fire, captivated the assembly. "What can you offer us?" One of the council members, a stout figure with textured skin resembling bark, challenged her. A brave, skeptical voice in a sea of uncertain faces. "Trust is a currency we cannot easily afford." Leora stepped forward, resolute. "The Imperium underestimates the power we hold when united. With my ability to harness energy and Jacob's ingenuity, we could create defenses. Her declaration hung in the air, a thread of hope, and Jacob could see belief beginning to flicker in their eyes. Tal nodded, and the council exchanged silent glances, their deliberations tangible in the air. Beyond your resolve, do you have means of mobilizing our forces? Their ships grow in number, and we are but shadows in the light they cast, he finally asked, his tone a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. We can forge weapons from my knowledge of mechanics, Jacob replied, and Leora can empower those weapons with her energy signatures. If we can hold them at bay long enough, the people will rise. The fire in Jacob's voice took root, drawing in scattered hearts and minds. The tense silence that followed felt heavy. Jacob could see that Tal was considering their proposition. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. Then let us plan accordingly. The Imperium may be vast, but they underestimate the resolve of the free people. With that, the council sprang into action. Members broke into groups, mapping out strategies, spacecraft defense systems, and contingency plans. Jacob, as an outsider, felt an undeniable wave of inclusion, but a sliver of doubt coursed through his mind. After a lifetime spent working alone, could he truly be a part of something so grand, so intrinsically dangerous? As the hours passed in a whirlwind of energetic discussion and intricate designs, Jacob and Leora found themselves stealing glances and quiet moments in the chaos. In between the fervent plans of war, they shared stories of their worlds. Leora recounting tales of her lush home planet of Varian where flora sang in the gentle winds, and Jacob speaking of Earth, its simple joys intertwined with sorrow. They forged a camaraderie layered with laughter and warmth, solidified by a shared purpose against the impending encroachment of darkness. Suddenly, the peace of their collaborative preparations shattered. A vibration coursed through the ground, shaking everything in the chamber as heavy thuds echoed outward. Without warning, a roaring alarm blared. The imposing presence of the Imperium was closing in. The Free sprang into action, urgency overtaking their previously calm demeanor. Leora, stay close, Jacob shouted, pulling her toward a protective enclave just as explosions erupted above. Heavy plasma beams sliced through their sanctuary, sending shockwaves that echoed through the hall. A cacophony of cries erupted as chaos reigned and dust swirled through the dimly lit chamber. The council scattered, some rushing to their defense stations while others grabbed weapons salvaged over time. Tal's voice rang out above the chaos, reinforcing courage to your posts. We must defend our home. Jacob felt the adrenaline surge within him as he and Leora pushed through the tumult. We have to get to the command center. Leora shouted over the din, summoning energy to her hands as light flickered like fireflies. There was something mesmerizing about her power, grounding and yet ethereal, and Jacob felt his resolve solidify as they fought together against the onslaught. Through the chaos, Leora unleashed beams of multicolored energy toward the advancing enemy ships, each strike illuminating the shadows. The hidden base on the moon, known as Lyra X, was bathed in an ambient glow from the swirling nebulae outside, a tapestry of colors that danced across the chamber windows. This sanctuary, once a forgotten outpost, had become a hub for those who resisted the Imperium's wrath. The walls were lined with shimmering screens showcasing interstellar maps and coded communications. It was here, in this convergence zone of hope and rebellion, that Jacob and Leora sought respite after the storm. Leora shuffled through the vibrant console, assisting the base's tech experts in establishing a secure line to their scattered allies. We need to move quickly, she said, her fingers deftly navigating through the holographic displays. Each tap released a cascade of data, illuminating her face with their soft glow. If we can't warn them of the Imperium's advances, Many will fall without knowing. Jacob stood beside her, a silent sentinel amidst the flurry of activity. "What's at stake here?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the low hum of the machinery. "It's incredible, Leora. I never fathomed I could be part of something like this." Leora turned, catching the vulnerability hidden in his eyes. "You've always been part of it, Jacob. You just needed to see it." The intensity of her gaze eased his trepidation. In her presence, he felt a surge of courage he had long thought extinguished with his previous life. As the minutes morphed into hours, Jacob roamed through the base, absorbing the energy of the assembled fighters. Stories of hardship and resolve mingled in the air, echoing like the steadfast rhythm of war drums. Each story revealed glimpses of their unique backgrounds: a former Starship pilot turned mechanic, a healer from the distant sands of Terra 5, and even a weapons specialist whose family faced annihilation at the hands of the Imperium. It was a tangled web of fear and resilience, woven together by a common purpose. The atmosphere thickened as they prepared for a debriefing, the air crackled with palpable tension. Jacob found himself seated beside Leora in a circular chamber where the leaders of the Free gathered. A large holographic representation of the galaxy illuminated the center of the room, planets and vessels shifting ominously. A commander, a grizzled veteran named Zulkar, stood at the forefront, his voice rugged and authoritative. "Listen up," he announced, his eyes scanning the assembled crowd. "We've received intel that the Imperium is mobilizing a fleet toward the core worlds. If we don't act now, our resistance will be crushed before it can truly begin." He glanced at Jacob and Leora, their unique bond forming a beacon of hope in the gathering darkness. "We need their strength. The power Leora holds could turn the tide of this conflict." Jacob felt a weight settle upon his shoulders at the mention of Leora's abilities. Powers derived from her very essence, ones that could harness energy from space itself. He turned to her, noticing the mixture of resolve and anxiety in her expression. "I want to fight, Jacob. I want to protect everyone here, but I have my fears," she said softly. "Fear is a part of the journey," he reassured, his voice steady. "Whatever happens, you won't be alone. We'll fight this together." The strategy meeting accelerated into fervor, each voice vying to contribute their piece of the puzzle. Plans were drawn. Simulations displayed potential tactics, revealing the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy. Jacob's thoughts raced with the intricate details, his mechanical mind weaving seamlessly between theory and practice. He could almost hear the gentle whir of tools clanging in the background, a reminder of his world so separate and yet suddenly intertwined with this cosmic fate. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon of Lyra X, casting shadows within the chamber, the meeting concluded with an electrifying resolve. "It's time," Zulkar stated, his voice resonating with determination. "Tomorrow, we fight for our home, for our freedom, and for our lives." Later that evening, as the squads dispersed to prepare, Leora pulled Jacob away from the chaos, leading him to a secluded observatory which overlooked the vastness of space. A nebula unfolded before them, waves of cosmic color reflecting their intertwined destinies. "Do you ever wonder if we can truly change things?" Leora asked, her voice a tender whisper against the backdrop of the vast unknown. With the stars twinkling like watchful eyes above, Jacob pondered for a moment. "Not just change," he said, his tone imbued with conviction. "We can ignite the spark needed to shift the cosmos. There's a power in unity." Leora nodded, her ethereal features glowing softly in the starlight. "Then let's do it, together." She wrapped her fingers around his, a warmth spreading through him, a healing touch against the impending storm of battle. The tranquility of their moment lingered until they heard urgent calls echoing in the distance, signaling the final preparations for the assault. The reality of their mission loomed heavily, casting shadows of doubt and anxiety. "We need to prepare," Jacob remarked, squeezing her hand. "What you can do, it's unlike anything I've ever seen." Leora turned her gaze back to the stars. "I can harness the energy, but only if I am not overwhelmed. I fear the backlash from it. The Imperium could sense it, draw from that connection. And if they do..." Her words trailed off, a frown disrupting the serenity in her features. "We won't let that happen. You paved the way, and I'll be right beside you, ready to intercept," Jacob vowed, his heart blossoming with an unyielding spirit. "It's not just your battle, it's ours." As dawn approached, illuminating Lyra X with tentative sunlight, the mood shifted into expectancy-filled urgency. They gathered, fighters clad in armor adorned with the symbols of the free, each standing with stories, scars, and dreams etched into their resolve. They were ready to face the Imperium, driven by the hope ignited by Jacob and Leora's bond. With their hearts steeled and minds focused, they ascended to the launch bay, a vast hangar filled with starships ready to pierce the cosmos. The roar of engines ignited a visceral thrill within Jacob. It was as if that very sound called to a part of him long lost. As he boarded alongside Leora, glancing back at the faces of their newfound family, he took a deep breath. "Let's go show them what we're made of," Leora said, her voice a clarion call of empowerment. Together, they were now a united front against oppression, ready to confront the coming tempest. As they powered through the atmosphere in their starship, starlight shimmering through the cockpit, Jacob felt a surge of gratitude for every twist and turn leading to this moment. The stars were not merely distant gas giants. They now shimmered with promise, awaiting their triumphant return. And so, as they plunged headlong into the abyss of battle and uncertainty, one thing became undeniably clear. They were not just allies bound by circumstance. They were harbingers of hope, illuminating the shadow cast by tyranny, threading compassion through the fabric of war. In the vast tapestry of the universe, the unexpectedly woven lives of a mechanic and an alien woman would weave the stardust of legends, stories yet untold, emerging from the cosmic void towards a horizon undefined. In the heart of chaos, where fear danced alongside hope, the true battle had only just begun. As the stars beckoned them closer, one final question lingered in Jacob's mind. Could love indeed illuminate even the darkest corners of the universe? The answer lay in the unfolding journey that awaited them beyond the fringes of the galaxy, amidst the celestial flames of war and unity. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.